Hello everybody! How you all doing out there? I hope this video is finding you well. Welcome or welcome back to Get Right On In. My name is Andrew, for those of you who do not know, and today I'm just going to go over some readability tips for those blog posts of yours out there. I mean, we do want people to read the things that we are putting out there, no? Whether you are writing blogs or copy for clients or anything in between, we are gonna go over some tips on how to make your copy more readable. So now with all that out of the way, without further ado, let's get right on in. So if you are writing blogs for yourself or for a client or for anything in between, you have probably heard of this little thing called SEO. That in and of itself stands for search engine optimization. We are not going to be talking too much about that today, but part of what affects your SEO is your readability. So how can you increase that readability to make sure that you're passing all of the ease of reading tests that you are silently being given by Google? If you use WordPress, I have mentioned a plugin called Yoast before. I will mention that same plugin again, and also reiterate that if you do not have it, that's fine. I'm just gonna take a few of the main tips from their readability analysis, as well as a few other ones, just to help you out when you are crafting your posts. This in no way whatsoever goes over everything, but here are 4 tips for you to keep in mind when you are writing your posts to make sure that they are as readable as possible. Number 1, watch your sentence length. If you are writing copy for the web, aim to have sentences of 20 words or less. This includes filler words like a and the and anything in between. That is not to say that every sentence has to be short. It is just that the majority of your sentences should be clear and concise and to the point. When we speak, we sometimes have a tendency to ramble, as anybody with a YouTube channel probably has figured out about themselves by now. But oftentimes you will hear to write your posts in a conversational tone, which I will talk about again more in a minute. But one way of utilizing that tone is to cut out all of the excess words from the sentences. Short, sweet, and to the point sentences make for much easier reading. Tip number 2, watch the use of passive voice. So here's my thing, I'm not even gonna lie. Passive voice warnings are one of my least favorite things to get from Yoast, from Grammarly, from anything else in between, because apparently I use passive voice just way too much. There are times when you can take the idea of using passive voice with a grain of salt, but there are definitely other times when you should pay attention to the warnings. Using a separate editor like Grammarly, the one that I just mentioned a minute ago, can also help you narrow down all of the times that you use passive voice, and then you can consciously change it to active. Essentially, you want to aim to use the active voice as much as possible. We are not going to talk too much about active versus passive voice today, because I can make an entirely separate video about that. But to use an example from the Grammarly article that I have linked down in the description box about passive voice versus active voice, Charlie kicked the ball. The ball was kicked by Charlie. The active voice, the first sentence, is more direct and to the point while being able to include both the subject, the ball, and the person, Charlie, doing the action, kicking. As I said, we are not going to spend too much time on passive voice versus active voice here, but it is something you should keep in the back of your mind, and something that in general you should start to familiarize yourself with, because even outside of web copy, you should be aiming to use the active voice over the passive as often as possible. Tip number 3, pay attention to your heading distribution. People like to scroll. People like bullet points. If you have a 10 tips article, people want to know what those 10 tips are pretty much off the bat before they stop to read anything more that they're interested in. For ease of scrolling, try to add in some sort of heading every 300 words or so. Headings range from the H1, which is the title or the headline of the piece, all the way down to like an H6, which is basically just a bolded text. I like to just randomly put H4s and H H3s and whatever's just here and there just to help out with the readability and highlight things that aren't necessarily headline worthy but are still one of the more interesting parts of the piece. Just so that when people scroll down, they can get the gist of basically everything without actually having to read the entire thing. And tip number 4, which was one that I did kind of mention earlier, is to make use of conversational tone. If you are providing information to somebody or you have some sort of listicle or a this or a that, let's just be honest. Nobody wants to read a lecture. Try and make your post engaging and informative. Let your personality shine through your text. Not everything has to be so rigid and stiff, you know. Try and make it like you're welcoming over one of your best friends for coffee right before you spill the tea. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's definitely plenty of other tips out there to help you out with your readability, but trying to keep short and sweet sentences, using active voice, distributing proper headings throughout the whole entire post, as well as using a conversational tone are 4 tips that are definitely going to help you produce more readable posts. What are some of the tips and tricks that you use to make your stuff more readable? Any tips that I missed out on today that you would love to share with me? Let me know down in those comments, as well as any other questions that you may have. I have a few more blog related videos coming out, but if there are any questions for topics that I do not know that people are interested in, then I am totally happy to make more videos to answer those questions, so just let me know down in those comments. In the meantime, if you liked today's video, then I would love it if you would press the little like button, and even consider pressing onto that little subscribe button as well, and then joining me every Tuesday and Thursday, and sometimes on Sunday for bookish and writerly and entertainment-y-esque content. In the meantime, I hope you have a day just as beautiful as you, and I will see you next time. Bye!